How to debug transpiled code and versus code effectively. Imagine you've written your code in a language like TypeScript or modern JavaScript, but what runs in your browser or server is plain JavaScript. Debugging that can feel like trying to find a needle in a haystack. Luckily, Visual Studio Code offers powerful tools to make this easier. Today, I'll walk you through how to debug transpiled code effectively so you can fix bugs faster and with less frustration. First, you need to make sure your transpiler is set up to generate source maps. If you're using TypeScript, open your tsconfig.json file and set source map to true. This creates separate map files that connect your transpiled JavaScript back to your original source files. Without these, your debugger will only show the compiled code, which is harder to read and understand. Next, you need to tell Visual Studio Code how to use those source maps. This is done in the launch.json file inside your project's VS Code folder. You'll want to set the program attribute to point to your transpiled JavaScript file, like dist/index.js. Then, add source maps set to true in your debug configuration. This tells versus code to look for the source maps and link your original code to the running program. If you're using Babel or another transpiler, the process is similar. Make sure your build process generates source maps and that your debug configuration points to the right files. This way, when you start debugging, versus code can map the breakpoints you set in your original source files directly to the running code. When you start a debugging session, you can set breakpoints in your TypeScript or S6 files. The debugger will pause at those points, showing you the original code, not the compiled version. You can then step through your code line by line, inspect variables, and see the call stack as if you were working directly in your source files. Using the built-in Node.js debugger in versus code makes this even smoother. You can attach to a running process or launch it directly from versus code. Enable auto-attach in your launch configuration, and you'll have a seamless debugging experience. This is especially helpful for server-side code or complex applications. Remember to use features like smart stepping. This skips over generated helper functions or transpiler-specific code that doesn't relate to your logic. It keeps your debugging focused on your actual source code, making it easier to find bugs. In summary, the key steps are to enable source maps in your build process, configure your launch.json properly, and set breakpoints in your original source files. When you do this, versus code becomes a powerful ally, letting you see your code as you wrote it, even when it's been transpiled into JavaScript. This approach saves you time and makes fixing bugs much more straightforward.